That's Carl. You don't know him. Philippians 2:12 says, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling." Salvation is a work. It's a work of faith, but it is a work that must be done. And taken from a certain perspective, salvation is the main work that God wants us to do. In this life, is to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. Wait a minute. I thought that salvation was a work that was completed by Christ and given to us. That's true. But it's a completed work that has to be worked out in this life. The spiritual part of salvation is completed. But on the natural side, it has to be worked out. So we are to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. It is a walk on a high, tight rope, and the consequences are fearsome. If you misstep, you can fall into the abyss, and the consequences are horrendous. And so the work of salvation, the working out of salvation, is an extremely important thing. And it is up to us to work it with fear and trembling, recognizing what the consequences are. That's true. It is by grace, but that grace has to be worked out in the growth of the Christ, in the natural. There's another work that must be done, and that's the work of deliverance. The work of deliverance is the ongoing daily working out of our faith. God wants to deliver our salvation. And the deliverance also has to be worked out. The way that I look at it is, salvation is one side of the coin, and it is a work that must be done. It's the spiritual side. Deliverance is the opposite side of that coin. Deliverance is the work in the natural that has to be done. Now, the work of salvation and the work of deliverance is the work of the Father. Thank you. I look very wise. Don't let looks deceive you. No, but thank you. You look very wise. Jesus Christ was about his Father's business. I must be about my Father's business. I must be about, yes, we're talking about salvation. I must be about my Father's business. And my Father's business is my salvation on one side. And my Father's business is working out my deliverance on the other side. And so I need to understand that the work by which God is delivering me from one season to the other is my work of faith. And it is the work of the Father. And so the work that I do on a daily basis on the natural takes on a great meaning. It is my act of worship, because it is through that work that God is delivering me in the natural, and also delivering me in my work of faith, that work of salvation. So that work, the work of my deliverance, is the work that God is doing in me, by me, through me, for me, and I also like to say despite me. God's work of my deliverance is his work of my salvation, because it is through his deliverance that he's teaching me and transforming me to get to the other side. And that side is the completion of my salvation. So the work of salvation and the work of deliverance is one and the same. By guiding me through the work of my deliverance, the Father is guiding me through the work of my salvation. Through teaching me what I need to know to work out my deliverance, the Father is teaching me what I need to know in order to deliver my salvation, the completion of my salvation. I am doing a work of invention, and it's very labor intensive, but it's also inspirational, and it requires a lot of sacrifice. And I'm tempted to see it. One might be tempted to see the work that God has one doing as that on the natural as my work and not God's work. But I recognize that the work that God is having me do is the work by which he's wanting to deliver me. It is the work by which he is delivering me. By that same work, he's delivering me to the accomplishment of my salvation. Therefore, my work in the natural is also my spiritual mission. That mission that God wants me to do. And so, my encouragement to you is, if you believe, if you are in the will of the Father, don't make a distinction between the work that you're doing in the natural, if you're being obedient to your belief, to the guidance of God. Don't believe that the work that you're doing in the natural is distinct and apart from your deliverance and from your work of salvation, because both each is the one side or the other of the same coin. And so work out your salvation with fear and trembling, and work out your deliverance with fear and trembling as well. Don't forget that the work that you're doing, that God is guiding you through, by which He's working out your deliverance, is also the work by which He's teaching you and He's accomplishing your salvation. I would be interested in hearing what you have to say about that. I'm not sure that I can have a satisfactory answer for you. But belief is the hinge that decides a man's salvation. In the desert, the Father did not allow unbelievers to enter into the promised land. They were allowed to live out their life span in the desert and die in the desert. So I don't know if that satisfies your question, but that's what comes to me. Thank you very much for your attention, for watching, and I hope that it helps you.